That's Luke 13, beginning at verse 22. And he went through the cities and villages, teaching and journeying toward Jerusalem. Then said one unto him, Lord, are there few that are going to be saved? And he said unto them, strive to enter in at the strait gate. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in, and shall not be able. When once the master of the house has risen up, and has shut the door, and you begin to stand outside, and to knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. And he shall answer and say unto you, I know you not whence you are. In other words, I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know who you belong to. Then shall ye begin to say, we have eaten and drunk in thy presence, and thou hast taught in our streets. But he shall say, I tell you, I know you not whence you are. Depart from me, all ye workers of iniquity. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, when ye shall see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, and you yourself thrust out. And they shall come from the east and from the west and from the north and the south, and shall sit down in the kingdom of God. And behold, there are last which shall be first, and there are first which shall be last. Would you go back to verse 23? Then said one unto him, Lord, are there few that be saved? Are there few that be saved? My message tonight, when Jesus shuts the door. Look at me, please. This question that was asked of Jesus, are there going to be just a few people saved? I've asked that question all over the world where God's called me to preach. I remember asking it in Mexico City. I was in one of those arenas to preach where they have the fights, what do you call those, bullfights, in a bullfight arena. Mexico City has probably, I don't know the population, probably 20 million now. One of the large cities of the world. And you look at the masses of humanity, a city that sprawls for miles and miles. And you ask the question, Lord, how many are going to be saved here out of all these millions? And then the answer always comes back, such a few. I remember asking it in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We're having great meetings there, but it was just a small, even though it was well attended, so small compared to the overall population. Sao Paulo is one of the top 10 cities in the world in population. Sao Paulo is a teeming city. Like during noon hour, they come out of those buildings, and then at rush hour. New York is nothing compared to Sao Paulo, Brazil. Just like waves of humanity, masses. When you stand there, you have to get off the side. You can't even walk on the sidewalk, and you say, oh God, this is a city given to witchcraft. It's a city of all kinds of idolatries. How many are going to be saved? And you hear that sad report in lieu of the population, or in view of the population, so very few. In Poland for crusades, in 5 of the major cities, flying into Poland, into the Iron Curtain countries, you feel the spirit of those nations behind the Iron Curtain. You think not only of Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, all those Eastern Bloc countries. You think of Russia, then you move to China, and you think of the multiplied hundreds of millions in China. And then you're talking not millions of lost souls, you're talking billions. Billions, and you say, oh Jesus, how many are going to be saved? Are there just a few? The same question this man asked. I've asked it. I've asked it in Times Square here. I've asked it for years, for 30 years here. I asked it this past summer before we started this church. I would get on the Ticketron Island. Have you ever been out there when the theaters let out? About 10:20 to 11 o'clock, and you watch that massive humanity and taxis going everywhere, and you see a pleasure-mad crowd? Have you never been out there and let tears roll down your face and say, oh Jesus, look at this crowd going to hell? How many are going to be saved? Are there only a few going to be saved? And I tell you now, saints of God, if there was a revival in America, in New York City, and I believe it's coming, and 1 million people were saved, and we couldn't hold them in any of our churches, or not even in the open fields, like Central Park, there would still be just a small remnant of the multitudes. How many of New York would be saved? Just a few compared to the massive humanity here. Only a few. Now how can anybody know that there are going to be just a few saved? Jesus said, enter you in at the strait gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be that go in thereat. But strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Who said that? Few there be that find it. Now where is this broad way? I'm not talking about Times Square. I'm not talking about Broadway going right down through it. I'm not talking about 42nd Street. That's not the Broadway to destruction. That's not the highway to destruction. The Broadway, the highway to destruction is right through the door of the church. I tell you, pastors are sending more people to hell than all the pimps and prostitutes and harlots out on those streets, and all the drug pushers included. And I say it with love, but also say it feeling the wrath of God against a compromising church. The Broadway to destruction, the Broadway to hell, goes right through the door of our compromising modern pilot church system. False doctrines, preaching false security, cheap grace, making lukewarm Christians feel like they're going to heaven when in fact they're going to hell. They've never been warned or told that the gate is straight and the way is narrow. We've abandoned that. You know, we've abandoned almost everything because we call it legalism.